General Director of the WHO fully supports efforts to reopen economies. PFP furious about government not sending advice to the MPs. And board member of the Rent Tribunal explains the issue of tenants and the payment of rent during the COVID-19 lockdown. Those are the headlines for Tuesday, September the 1st, 2020. Good evening, viewers. This is SXM Daily News. I am Valerie Van Putten. And we have a full newscast for you this evening, so let's get started. In our first story, as we continue now with our series with the St. Martin Rent Tribunal dealing with tenant-landlord issues, board member of the Rent Tribunal, Mr. Edward Jacobs, speaking to our news department recently, we asked Mr. Jacobs about the issue of tenants not being able to pay their rent during the COVID-19 pandemic.
We passed through a situation in 2017 after Irma. It was terrible. With the COVID now, the situation is worse than when after Irma, because you have people that were working, they were paying, they up to date with the rent and everything, but through that they had no job, they had no income, they couldn't pay. You have parents want to evict children with grandchildren out of the house. You have good friends who rent in for years, don't want their friends out. You have so many situations that at the given moment, landlords want to increase rents on the people them because he does or she doesn't have a job, and the situation, it's totally out of hand. And my phone, it's my personal phone. I think you used to send someone by me once, and if I don't get 10 calls per day, because one person not get the number, they can pass it to another one, they can pass it to another one, and almost, if I get 10, it can say it's reasonable. But the whole day I'm getting calls, and I can advise the persons to the best of my ability. If it's a tenant, I'll tell him, listen, man, or sir, the landlord cannot evict you from the building without a decision from the rent tribunal or from the court. So as long as the person doesn't take you to court, you don't have to worry about that, because if the landlord or landlady comes by force to force you out of where you're living, you call the police authorities, and they will have to deal with it, because it's something illegal that they are doing. They are not allowed to do that. You see, and it's not going to get better. Sometime I walk in, going by the bank, I park my car by the office, and when I come back, I see about 4 or 5 people stand up there waiting. You know, knowing myself, I cannot just turn off and don't deal with them. But all the situations, it boils down to the same thing. It's either a landlord want to force out a person because they owe 2 months rent, or the most of them are tenants that they owe a month and a half or 2 months, and the landlord cutting off water, taking off electricity, which is also illegal, you see. And as long that, like Mr. Larmoni said, that the building from where we're operating is not functional for us to receive clients, and for the client's own safety, because the hall where they have to wait, it's 3 by 3, and you can put people inside it together. Our proposal was to put a tent in the walkway outside, where we can have people sitting there and keeping the distance, the safe distance, and also what we requested to have then is a security officer who can keep track of what's going on. Because sometimes you meet tenant and landlord meet together and they start argument by themselves. It happened in the office that I had to come outside and say, please folks, the hearing is start yet. When the hearing starts, you all can discuss. If you don't want to sit next to this person, you can wait outside. When we're ready, we will call you. Because if you just leave them there, it's going to continue, you see. And the situation is not going to get any better soon. I see, like, we've seen the amount of cases that are increasing on St. Martin, and not only St. Martin, worldwide. If you see what happened in Aruba, wow, I never expected that, but it's something that we have to live with and we have to deal with.
And in other news, the Minister of TEAT, Ludmila de Wever, has taken the decision after discussion with the Council of Ministers for commercial premises with licenses for clubs, adult entertainment, discotheques, bars, and lounges, such as cigar lounges, to remain closed until September the 15th, 2020. This decision was not taken lightly, especially after consulting with various business owners. However, this restriction allows the country additional time to control what is deemed as higher risk activities while balancing the need to continue supporting the survival of businesses, particularly as we enter our slow season. Another factor in the decision-making included the medical capacity limitations as the number of COVID-19 cases continue to rise. Restaurants are allowed to remain open as long as they close by midnight, ensure continued social distancing measures, wearing of face masks, and proper hand sanitization. And still to come, Member of Parliament for the USP requests clarification on the concerns brought forward by the Inmates Association. And we'll have the details to that story and much more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching SXM Daily News, and I'm Valerie Van Putten. And in more news for you at this time, following last week's media reports that the Point Blanc Prison Inmates Association expressed its concerns about the health conditions at the institution, United St. Martin Party USP members of Parliament, MPs Akeem Arundel and Claudius Tonja-Bancamper, sent a letter to Justice Minister, the Honorable Anna Richardson, on Monday, requesting clarification on the concerns brought forward by the Inmates Association. The association, represented by Shamara Roseberg, sounded what is being referred to as an even louder alarm, urging the powers that be to get serious about restructuring the prison system or risk facing a situation they will not be able to control. SXM Daily News spoke to the MP, the Honorable Claudius Bancamper, who expounded more.
Basically, we sent a letter expressing some concerns that we had regarding the prison. Remember, there was an article a few days back in the newspaper about the spokesperson for the prison inmates complaining about the COVID issue in the prison and the possibilities of quarantining people properly, seeing that the prison is basically nearly full to capacity. I believe there were two openings yet for inmates to come in, but basically then it's full to capacity, which would mean that it would be very difficult to get people quarantined properly. So in that sense, it was, where do we go from here with this? And as such, we asked the questions to the minister, if she can, just for clarity's sake, seeing that there were prison guards that got tested and were positive. We understood the social worker tested positive, and she has been in contact with various prisoners. So, it's just a safety precaution, because remember, when people are incarcerated and you take away their freedoms, it doesn't mean that they lose their rights to health care, proper health care. And prevention is better than cure. At the end of the day, definitely with something like COVID. So again, it's not a finger-pointing letter. It's more a letter of concern, asking, to get some clarity on certain issues. Also, there were some other issues that the spokesperson for the prison inmates, or the legal representative of the prison inmates, brought up, which had to do with a proper gymnasium, proper facilities, be it medical, dental, etc., recreational facilities, so that they can air longer than they air now. All of these things, these are not things that we are firsthand aware of. These are things that we are getting through the media. So in that sense, we asked a few questions also to the minister for clarification purposes. And, like I stated before also, I think it would be wise that the Justice Committee of Parliament, at least some representatives, that we really go to the prison and truly see what's wrong, what's happening out there. We sit down here, we debate about the prison and the financing of the prison. It was made a condition. We had to put it in our budget of 2020. The Dutch said you have to put it in that budget. We did put it in the budget. Now you notice with COVID, there is no budget 2020 to an extent to go and build a prison. You don't want to give us an entity. So basically, in other words, you're telling me the prison isn't going to be built. And these are the type of things that need to be addressed now. So I want to go up and really see how bad this prison is. And if need be, we should take serious action, because talk is cheap. At the end of the day, like I said, not because somebody lost their freedom because he committed an illegal act or he broke the law in whatever form or fashion, means that you treat them now differently. They are still human beings and they have rights. And those rights may not be trampled on. It may not become a financial reason why you treat people differently, especially when they are incarcerated and cannot fend for themselves. You see, if you don't give somebody income support, he still can fend for himself from the outside. If you decide not to give a prisoner food, he can't cook for himself from there because he has no access to nothing. So there are some differences that we need to carefully look at and deal with accordingly. At the end of the day, I have always said jail was made for everybody, so we should treat people differently because we believe it's not us directly involved.
And as we continue now with more news, Party for Progress, PFP members of Parliament, MPs Melissa Gums and Rayon Peterson, are furious about government not sending an advice rendered by the Council of Advice on the Caribbean Reform Entity to Parliament after being in government's possession for 4 weeks. SXM Daily News spoke to the Honourable Member of Parliament earlier today about the issue.
Well, I think we tried to explain it as best we could in the newspaper article, and it was more just the feeling of am I really meant to believe that that everyone missed such a critical email when we are being asked to sign on to letters and provide a united front as Parliament on maybe things and communications that we maybe do not fully agree on without having all the information on hand. And I think, it's kind of being made light of that, well, this advice, doesn't really say much different from how we feel, but I think that I can make that decision once I have it in my hand. I can't base that off of anyone's say-so, whether it's the President of Parliament or whoever. I have to base it on me having read and analyzed the advice on my own. Because I have to vote my conscience, not anyone else's. Mm-hmm. So seeing that and hearing that, and then knowing that we sent an entire request to the Tweede Kamer to have them request advice from the Council of State, in the Netherlands without even having this advice, it's a little confusing to me that it would be dismissed as not really critical to what is going on these days. And I think the advice, based on at least what I have seen in the Daily Herald article, basically encourages that we continue to discuss and negotiate and consult with the Netherlands and all other Kingdom partners until a solution can be found. And if not and a solution is not going to entirely favor us, and it will not entirely favor the Netherlands. I think it has to be somewhere down the middle. But we're not feeling that from government, so that's part of what drove our aggravation, that we don't have this advice in hand, and then that the reasoning coming to us from government is that it was missed. In these times, we cannot afford to miss critical pieces of information from any source, especially one of our higher councils of state.
Okay, so Member of Parliament, what would be your next step?
Well, we have asked the President of Parliament has said that government is sending the advice. We were meant, I think, to receive it today, have not yet received it. We will be sending in official letters to the Prime Minister requesting that the advice be sent to Parliament ASAP, and also that she reopen discussions with the Netherlands. And that's just going based on, again, what we have seen in the article from the Daily Herald, but I'm sure once you read the full advice, it won't change our position on that point either.
SXM Daily News also asked the Member of Parliament regarding having continued talks with the Netherlands. Because we are requesting money from them, they can set the conditions, and we are running out of time.
It's our frustration because this has been an ongoing saga since, I want to say, June, around May, June, which is why I'm trying to really figure out where the delays. I mean, if you consider that the advice that we have not yet seen is dated July 28th, and it's been now a month, essentially, of just hearing over and over again that it's been presented as a take it or leave it, that, and still asking what has the Council of Advice said, what has been stated, what are their legal opinions on it, and nothing forthcoming. For us now, it is up to pressure government to try and just you can't turn back the clock, but you can at least now start taking that step forward. If we look at Aruba, I think they are a little ways ahead of us when it comes to that. And I believe that in Curacao it would be much of the same.
Now, turning to our weather forecast for September the 1st, 2020, moisture and instability associated with a low-level trough will account for cloudiness and isolated showers across the region, particularly during this forecast period. Moderate to locally rough marine conditions can be expected during the next few days. Small craft operators and sea bathers are advised to exercise caution. So our outlook through Thursday midday, partly cloudy to cloudy with isolated showers. Now let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, President of the Windward Islands Chamber of Labor Union wants Parliament to make amendments for workers that lose their jobs. And we'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching SXM Daily News. In more news for you at this time, President of the Windward Islands Chamber of Labor Unions, Claire Elshot, speaking to Member of Parliament Christophe Emmanuel on Sunday last in a virtual meeting about the unemployment benefit for civil servants, the White Crew president wants Parliament to make amendments for workers that lose their jobs for whatever reason. And she elaborated further.
Now, Christopher, I mean, I'm not targeting anything, but I'm saying logically, if a member of parliament loses their work, their job, government fall, the member of parliament can request and can continue to receive an income up to, I believe, legally in the law, up to 2 years. We as unions are dependent for parliament to also make those amendments, and we are urging parliament to make those amendments for the workers that lose their jobs because of whatever reason. So that would then, according and in collaboration with what we call the ILO, it would be an unemployment benefit based on the norms of the social protection floor. So the status of number one type of workers, I'm saying, for especially in the private sector, is the unemployment rate has gone up. Number two, if I continue to analyze, still coming out of the private sector, the underemployment rate has also increased. What do I mean with the underemployment rate? I mean that, for example, a number of persons that a work week is described as 40 hours or a 6-day work week or 5-day work week, those days were just cut and reduced, even though there might have been provisions in certain CLAs to, how you would say, to the impact, to mitigate the impact of such a pandemic or a hurricane or something like that, giving them the leeway to say, okay, in case of that, we can have the work week reduced to 4 days. A number of workers have had their work week reduced to 3 days, 2 days, and 0 days. So reduced work week was even, how you would say, compensated by forcing workers to go on vacation. Now, the most cruel things you could do to a worker is to send them on a vacation without a vacation pay. But that was the way of circumventing paying those workers. So the status, when we talk of the status of the workers, these were some of the practices, especially in the private sector. Now, when we come over to the government, up to now, things has been a little stable when we come to, let's say, if we discuss, for example, persons with their salaries, the salaries have not been cut, but in government for a number of years, Mr. Emmanuel, they have not received their increments, their yearly increment. There were no evaluations in certain sectors or certain departments where the persons were able to go up or go down, as you would say, a step in their in their scale, and therefore this left a number of workers that they are stagnant. They are frozen in their scales in the government. So there is no increase based on a yearly basis. So that already has an impact. In addition, the government subsidized entities also have to go on, let's say, on the same 12.5%, and with the same 12.5% being imposed on those that are subsidized, like school boards immediately realize that, listen, when it comes to the vacation pay, I cannot, without any legal basis, just reduce the vacation pay and tell my workers, the government say to reduce it to 50% and they're going to pay this and that, because the government have not provided the school boards with a legal basis or anything like that.
And still to come, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus fully supports efforts to reopen economies. I'll have the details of that story when SXM Daily News returns. Welcome back, viewers. And as we end this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening, at the WHO press conference held recently, Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus says that after 8 months into the pandemic, people are tired and wants to get on with their lives. The Director General is fully supporting efforts to reopen economies and children returning to schools, but wants it done safely.
8 months into the pandemic, we understand that people are tired and yearn to get on with their lives. We understand that countries want to get their societies and economies going again. That's what WHO wants to. Stay-at-home orders and other restrictions are something that some countries felt they needed to do to take pressure off their health systems. But they have taken a heavy toll on livelihoods, economies, and mental health. WHO fully supports efforts to reopen economies and societies. We want to see children returning to school and people returning to the workplace, but we want to see it done safely. At the same time, no country can just pretend the pandemic is over. The reality is that this coronavirus spreads easily. It can be fatal to people of all ages, and most people remain susceptible. If countries are serious about opening up, they must be serious about suppressing transmission and saving lives. This may seem like an impossible balance, but it's not. It can be done, and it has been done. But it can only be done if countries are in control of transmission. The more control countries have over the virus, the more they can open up. Opening up without having control is a recipe for disaster. It's not one size fits all. It's not all or nothing. We believe there are 4 essential things that all countries, communities, and individuals must focus on to take control. First, prevent amplifying events. COVID-19 spreads very efficiently among clusters of people. In many countries, we have seen explosive outbreaks linked to gatherings of people at stadiums, nightclubs, places of worship, and in other crowds. Preventing these amplifying events is essential, but there are ways to hold gatherings safely in some places. Decisions about how and when to allow gatherings of people must be taken with a risk-based approach in the local context. Countries or communities experiencing significant community transmission may need to postpone events for a short time to reduce transmission. On the other hand, countries or communities with sporadic cases or small clusters can find creative ways to hold events while minimizing risk.
And with that, viewers, brings us to the end of this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening. I am Valerie Van Putten, thanking you so much for joining me. And just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you for watching and plan on meeting you right back here again tomorrow.